All right. Well, welcome. This is well, I don't know what we're going to call this. We're going to call this a Striving for Eternity Logos training. I labeled it as Logos Training 1, which kind of hints to that we might have a second. I'm Andrew Rappaport. I'm the president and founder of Striving for Eternity, a discipleship ministry. Striving for Eternity is where discipleship happens. And so if you want more information about us, you could go to www.strivingforeternity.org. You can find out all the things that we have there. We offer seminars on how to interpret the Bible. We offer an academy where you can learn classes, a 20-week class on, or 20 lesson classes, take it at your own pace, but on how to interpret the Bible. We have over 80 lessons, I think, on our systematic introduction to systematic theology. We have 20 plus classes on introduction to world religions and more than 20 classes on intro to discipling. And we have more coming. Working on a class on logic is probably going to be our next class, either that or a Bible survey. We're working on a couple different things. So that's our academy. We also have conferences that we do where we do some trainings, encourage people to go out and evangelize, things like that. So we have a lot of different things that we do at Striving for Eternity, and we would encourage you to go to the website and check that out. Now, what we're doing tonight is actually came about, let me give a little history. Many of us were at a conference. It was the G3 conference, and at the G3 conference, there was supposed to be a Logos training. And Logos, there was some confusion and the training never occurred. And so a lot of people who know that I am a large and heavy Logos user contacted me and said, hey, would you be able to give us some training, give us some of what you do and teach us? Because what we discovered is there are a lot of people who use the Logos Bible software, and does that help? Someone said I don't look that large. I don't know if that was. Should I move closer?
Like you work out.
I look large if you see below the chest. I'm very large. If you haven't guessed, we're gonna have some fun. We have some folks who are in here and are gonna be here so we can get some questions and make sure we do this to help folks. So if you want to join actually and you're watching on YouTube and you're watching live, that is, there is a link to join in the description of the Hangout. So if you go to the Hangout and click the link, you can actually join in. That way you can ask questions. And for folks who join live, we're just going to ask mute your mic as you come in. So here's how this came about. I used Logos quite a bit. Let me do a quick look just to see. I've been told that I have more books in Logos than anybody outside the company. But I've also been working on it for like 24 years, about 23 and a half about. And I now have, as I look, 48,000 volumes in my Logos library, which is a lot, which means it kind of gets a little slow. Kofi's eyes just went like this. And so, Kofi, you're still young. In 25 years, you have that to look forward to. If you can convince your wife to let you keep buying books, that's the harder part. I can't vouch for that. But over a long period of time, I've been buying books. I buy them in bulk primarily so that I can get the best discounts. It is not a cheap software, I understand. But when people ask me, what packages should I get in Logos? My answer is always whatever gives you the most books. If anything that gives you the most books, get that. Whatever you can afford with the most books. But the thing is that I can honestly say now, I'm going to say this as someone with, I don't know, I think I have over almost 30 years of software development background. My background, I went to college, I got a degree in computer science. So that's my background. In all the software that I've worked on, in all the software that I've used, I can honestly say that I've never been more impressed with any software, Christian, secular, whatever, than Logos Bible software. And when you really learn how to use it well, it opens up so much that you can do to study the Bible. And so, and what we're going to hope, and those who are in the channel are going to pray, and some of you guys will understand this right away, is I'm going to be pushing my computer to its limits. For folks who don't know, I'm on a 9-year-old Windows machine that I have maxed out and cannot add anything more to it to get this to work. And so doing Logos and a Hangout can be dangerous. But we're going to see, we're going to assume that it's going to work just fine. And we'll see if that actually is true. So I'm going to share my screen right now. And and we're going to go through some basics. And guys folks who are watching on YouTube, I do have that chat open, so you can pop in a question if you have questions. If anyone in here has a question, you can pop it in. And I'll try to answer that. If you want to unmute yourself, you can do that as well. And so we'll probably go, I'm going to try to go for about 2 hours so that this isn't too much at any one time. And then we'll also look to, possibly do more of these in the future. So one of the things that you see here is this is actually what's the homepage. And you can always get to the homepage. Let me ask this, you guys who are here, do you see my mouse as well? Give me a head nod if you see my mouse. Good. Good. So that way I know that. So this is the home page. You can always click home. Now, we're going to show this later, but the thing about home is that if you ever go to the home page, it really doesn't undo your layouts. And we're going to talk about layouts in a bit, but it doesn't undo your layouts. It just kind of pops up your home page or pops it away. It'll toggle of that. The nice thing about the home page, and I'm not saying this just because, so when I started using Logos 1 or 2, I actually sent to Bob Pritchett, the president of Logos, over 100, I think it was like 120 features that I wanted to see in Logos. And I think all of them have made it in by Logos 4. One of them was that my pastor, when I first when I was basically in church and he was training me to be a pastor in the church, one of the things he taught me to do was to always, every morning in my devotions, was to open up my Bible dictionary or Bible encyclopedia to a random place in the encyclopedia and just read an article. And people have asked me how I know so much of the background of the culture and things like that when I teach the Bible, and a lot of it is because of that behavior, because every day I would look to read just one new article that I hadn't read before and learn something new. And what you actually see over here in this left is a bunch of different things that you can customize what you see, but a lot of what I have is different excerpts. You see this word excerpt right here. And here, what it's doing is going through my library and randomly pulling something out, just random. And that random article is something I'll sit and read. And if I want to dig in more, I start to read that a little bit more. But I've kind of made that a habit. They've tried to make your homepage to be something that you would start your day with. As you see, I'm a little bit behind on my. I was trying to do the reading through Jonah in the month, and I'm a little bit behind because I didn't do it since January 31st. but I got to get back onto that plan. That's one of the things also. Logos, I should say, there's you could go to logos.com. They have videos there. They have the Logos Pro videos to walk you through. And that's really a good way to do it. They have them in small segments. And that's what you see right up here is I keep those because when they do a new video, I'll click on this and watch it and play the new videos. So that's one of the things that I like in my homepage. One of the things they have, this reading through Jonah, is actually a thing that they have, which you can see right here, is the Logos Pro plan is this is a something that they developed to help you learn Logos and learn how to study the Bible at the same time. They did this last year in January 1st, and they started it then, and it was really good. It was going through Matthew 4 on the section of Matthew 4. Really, really good stuff. And so a question that Steve is asking is, what's the difference between this and Logos Now? And so Logos, there's 3 different things you could do. You can get Logos Cloud. You can buy Logos. And then if you have Logos, you could get Logos Now. Let me explain those 3 because it was confusing to me for a bit. Logos Cloud is really for the next generation. People who want Logos, they're looking to buy Logos, but as we see with software nowadays, it's kind of a, people do everything by, by leasing. That's the new model. And so what you end up with that is that Logos Cloud is a way to kind of rent Logos. You get at a certain level and they choose the books that you're going to have. So that's Logos Cloud. If you already own Logos, you're not going to want Logos Cloud. If you don't have Logos at all, Logos Cloud might be an option, but you're going to be limited on how many books you can get. So you're going to have to decide how many books you want to have in your library. So if you want to expand your library like I have, you're going to want to own it. Now, once you own it, Logos Now is a really good thing. And what Logos Now does is Logos Now will let you get the new features of Logos, well, now. It lets you get Logos features. They come out like every 6 weeks. They give you a couple new features. So I was doing that in Logos 7 when Logos 6. And when Logos 7 came out, the majority of those features I already had. I think actually I had all of the features. The only thing I didn't have was the new books. So I had to buy Logos 7 to get the new books. That's what Logos Now is. So I hope that answered that question. Just so we have those. So when you come in here, what I was saying was you could get the Logos Pro plan, and they have a thing of going through Jonah, and I really encourage doing that. Even though I'm behind because like I said, I mean, here you can see I technically started it the January 31st, and it's been a very busy month for me, or month and a half, and so I haven't really gotten to. I got to day 1 of that training. So, but it's a thing where that shows up right here. And so that becomes something. If you want to take further courses, and I have mine, as I scroll down here, you see I'll have my courses right here. Okay. And so these are courses you could take that are offered from Logos. The other thing you see here in this left is my prayer list. And you're saying, Andrew, those are all attributes of God. Yes, that's exactly right, because that's what I pray every day. So what I do is I have my prayer list here, and all I got to do is click on this. Well, if I hover over it, you can see all the things I have in that each of these different prayers that I have. And all you have to do is when you're done praying on it, you click the little button here, and it'll go away for that day, and it comes up the next day. And so I have a lot of my prayer list here. So you can set this up where you can have your reading, your Bible reading. If you are someone that likes to be liturgical and you have maybe one of the, or you want to do a morning evening devotional, like a Spurgeon's morning evening, that'll be here as well. And so, I'm just trying to make sure I saw questions pop up or there were comments on YouTube. So sorry. Squirrel distraction. Joe, I don't know what you mean by your name is on the list 29, but oh, you're saying 29 is the is the prayer list. Okay. Well, I'm trying not to go all the way down because I don't want, I do have people's names on there. And sometimes some people don't want to know, don't want everyone to know that they're being prayed for. No, I did have and Joe will know who that is, but I have a guy who in Union Square, New York, that I pray for him weekly. He's an unbeliever, and he always hates the Christians. And my prayer list, actually, my primary prayer list is on my phone. And one of the reasons I have it that way is when I evangelize, I can just add someone right away. And so the Logos is kind of my backup one. But yeah, what ended up happening was I showed him my prayer list. I showed him that I pray for him, every week. And he was so surprised by that. It was the first time in like 6 years he actually shook my hand when I left. But one of the things I want to show you, and I actually was glad that I had some resources to update. What you see up in this corner up here, a couple of things. One is you see that Logos installed 7.4. And so if I click on this, it brings me to where I have a link and I can find out what things are in Logos 7.4, what new features they put in there. Okay. The other thing is I can click on this and they have updated. As you see here, they tell me the things they've updated. Now, for many people, you're not going to maybe care what that is. And if you don't, you could just click the X and it goes away. You may want to see the different books, the new books that were added. So that since the last time I came in, these are all the new books that I have or updates to books. Okay. And so when I'm done, I just can click that and close that away. Click that, close that away. You see my name up here. That's actually a hyperlink. If I click on that, that brings me right to my Logos account. That'll bring up in my browser a Logos account. So that's really convenient to have. And I guess I didn't give it kind of an agenda. What I want to do today, at least, is I want to go through the homepage, kind of get everyone familiar with it and get you using it because it really can be helpful. But then I want to go through just a couple of quick things. And like I said, we'll probably do more of these, but I want to go over some of the basic things that'll get everybody started no matter where they are. And we're going to keep doing this and get more and more advanced. And I'll say this, the best thing you could do if you really want to know Logos, you really want to be a good user in Logos, is to go to the Logos camps by that are put on by Morris Proctor. I would say, and I'm not, people have called me a Logos evangelist because I talk about it a lot because I just love their software. I love the Logos camp that Morris does. He is probably the best instructor I've seen in any subject, on any software, on any topic. I really was concerned that we'd get it stifled with so many people of different backgrounds into theology debates. He avoids all of that. Guy's super knowledgeable on every version of Logos. Guy's great. I mean, you go into one of the hangouts with or one of the classes with him, and he sits there and just right from the get-go remembers what version everybody's on. Oh, you're on 5, okay. What about your 5 gold? Okay. You're on 6 silver, okay. And he will then explain what everybody's seeing in all the different Logos versions and packages. It's amazing, but he doesn't waste a second. The guy uses a lot of repetition to explain things over and over, a lot of different ways so that you really get through it. He walks you through the steps. I would say if you really want to be proficient in Logos, taking Camp 1 and 2 is almost essential. They also have the videos that I mentioned earlier. Those are very helpful. If any of you have an Apple TV, the new Apple TV, you can get the Faith Life app on an Apple TV and get the videos on your TV. So if you want to sit and feel like you're watching it on TV on a big screen, you could do that. They actually, all those courses, you saw these courses that I had here, all of these are available on my Apple TV app. So I can watch them there as well. Besides the fact that they have 24-hour TV. So one of the things I could do is, if you see this little gear up here and I hover over it, it says customize. And if I click on that, you're going to see I have here that sidebar. Remember the sidebar I was telling you where I have my prayer list and everything else? Well, I could add a thing to start a new prayer list, to start a new reading plan on there. I can choose these different lectionaries if I want them. Okay. I have, the different reading plans that I might want to do. And so then you have all these different, readings that you could do. You could do Lutheran ones, for in Lutheran, you have the Common Book of Prayer. So you have all these things that you could add to your daily sidebar. And then this, where it says content, is this whole big center area. So you could choose, if you want to change your Bible preference, which one you want to use. If I click on this and then I click anywhere else, okay, what you're going to see is this page is going to redraw, and as it's going to redraw, it's now going to have something new, and that something new is going to be a choice where I can now choose which Bible I want as my default. Now you notice that all of a sudden some things changed, right? There's some different things here that are different. It went out and grabbed a whole bunch of new articles from my library. And so I have different articles now that I could click on and read. Excuse me. And so when you go with the gear, you have a lot of things you could choose from. You could choose your daily devotionals. You can choose Faith Life, which, by the way, is the company that now it used to be called Logos Bible Software. They now have the bigger company called Faith Life, which is much bigger than just the Logos Bible Software. They have their own social media site, which we're going to start moving some of our Bible study that we do on Monday nights over there for discussion. And the Faith Life group is kind of like a social media site that you can use. Really good for churches and groups that want to do study together, because it's like social media, but it's on specific topics. And so, I end up wanting to keep in touch with like the Faith Life blog and Faith Life Today. I don't have a concern for Faith Life Woman because I don't care about women. No. It's just not stuff for me, really. I don't need the notification stuff. The Logos blog, well, I get that in my email, so I didn't want it cluttering this up, so I uncheck that. And then I have media, where it's going to go through my media and pull different things. Like this, the Maidens Chosen is from a media. And the one that I really want to make sure that you click is this one that says excerpt. That's the one that goes through your library and grabs the random things to pull out. But you can have a verse of the day. You could do all these different things. And so I'll just unclick the choose my Bible preference, and it'll redraw this again. And while it's redrawing, you notice up here this number 2. You're sometimes going to see that. And if you hover over it, in my case, it's going to tell me, oh no, it started indexing all over again. That'll slow down my computer a little. One of the drawbacks to having a really large library is that you end up having to do more indexing, and the indexing can take a while. But what I just did is I ended up going over and let me resume it just so I could show you from here. When the indexing is there, you can actually just click on this, and you can pause the indexing if you want. So as it comes up here, it's telling me it's indexing. It's 1%. Well, I'm doing this Hangout. I don't want the CPUs being used for that. So I just click on this, and it's now going to resume in 4 hours to indexing. Let it index at a time when your computer, just downtime when you're not having to do that. And so I guess some Steve and John were saying that they believe that Faith Life app is on Roku and Chromecast as well. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't use those things. I'm an Apple boy. No. I've become an Apple boy. I'll put it that way. With a great amount of resistance. But I have kind of switched over at some point during this. I'm sure the computer is not going to. We're going to be complaining about the technology with this. But what you end up seeing is, excuse me. I just drink a little sun here. Now, you guys may not have what these icons. You see these icons up here? You may not have those, because those are something that I dragged and put there. And what you have up here is you're going to have a command window. And as you start becoming more proficient with Logos, you're going to use this a lot more, because what you're going to want to do is, if you want to open up a Bible, I could just, if I spelled ESV right, I could just do ESV, and automatically I have a choice of opening the ESV, and that will open it right away. So if I know the books, I can do that. And so there's a lot of different commands you could do, but here's the thing you could do. Say I wanted to open the ESV. I could take this little thing. I click my mouse on open ESV. I could just drag it right up here and let go. And you see the icon showed up? Now what happened was the home screen went away. But now if I click on that, that's going to open the ESV. And so that's a nice, easy way to put the things that you use regularly. So I'm just going to delete that. You can give it different icons if you want. They have a whole slew of different icons you could choose. You could show what you want in the image. Now this says ESV2 because I already have an ESV over there. So I'm going to delete this one. And you know what you see here is I bought the Logos 6 or Logos 7 training manuals. So you know what? I put these up here. Why? Because I go to these manuals quite a bit to try to figure out, these are put together by Morris Proctor. Great to have, because when you like, gee, let me get an overview of the homepage. It's one click away, and you can see with his manuals, it walks you through this step by step. Click here, click here, and it explains everything that step by step. So these are really good to have. And so I put those right at top. I have my ESV and my beloved Holman Christian Standard Bible. Those who know me, you guys know that I love this one. Problem is I can't do all the study with the Greek. Like if I click on this word experience here, they've added it. Oh, maybe I still will start using Holman now. But this was a thing that they didn't have before, is where you could do the Greek studies right from the Holman. So because of that, I did most of my study in ESV. And now, did you notice something, by the way? I had James 1 here. This is what we were studying in our men's Bible study this morning. And so once I opened the ESV, that's the last place that I was. It opened to James 1. When I opened the Holman, guess what? It opened to the same spot. It's going to do that for you, assuming that's where you want to be. So someone called me a heretic for loving the Holman Christian Standard Bible. Don't worry. You can't get that anymore. It's now going to be called the Christian Standard Bible. But, and so one of the things you see is, as you saw, so these are constantly, Logos is constantly updating these things. So you saw that I just learned that I could do some Greek works from the Holman. Didn't know that before. I also encourage up here is to put a Bible commentary, a full Bible. Now I have the MacArthur Study Bible because in my personal opinion, I think the MacArthur Study Bible is the best study Bible out there. You could disagree. You'd just be wrong. No. And for those who are watching, please, you got to just understand my humor. I do like to have fun. But I also have this one here. I suggest that you have a commentary that is one commentary on the whole Bible that you put on here. Okay. And I'm going to explain why later on, but it becomes really important. I put the English dictionary on there because, well, I don't know English so well. Computer languages, fine. English language, yeah, not my specialty. I have 2 books up here that I go to on every text of Scripture. Why? Because these deal with textual variances, and I like to get into that and study that out. So I put them right up there right away. This here is something that I created that we'll get to in maybe a much later class of this, but it's a guide that I created on my own. We're going to get to some of the different layouts in the guides. And so that's a guide that I use that I tailored. So I put that up there. When you go to the guides here, you're going to see a passage guide, an exegetical guide, a word study guide, a sermon starter guide, and a topic guide. And then you see Andrew's guide. Well, there were things in the passage guide, things in the exegetical guide that I liked. Some I didn't. So what did I do? I was able to customize it and make my own. You can make a whole lot of these. You could actually make this for different types of study, a different guide for doing devotions versus doing study. You're going to see when we're going to talk about layouts in a bit. And what I'm trying to do is just give some real big overviews, and then we're going to get into how to use some of these guides just so that we all can get started with where we're at. And I'm going to hopefully show you some things, even if you've been using Logos for a bit, that'll be new to you. So the thing here is that you end up seeing very quickly, you can create the stuff like this. You can also create layouts, and I like playing with layouts. We're going to get to the tools in a bit, but so I have my guide here. I have my sermon study. This is if you want to work, if you're a pastor or you're teaching regularly, they have the sermon study guide that will help you in starting a sermon, in developing, if you use PowerPoints or slides. They have it designed where you can very quickly create slides with scripture verses, create slides with quotes that you get. So you get a great quote from Spurgeon, you could just drop that in there. It's really good, but not something we'll go over today. I use the fact book a lot, and maybe we'll get a chance to talk about that today. And so I put that up there. The other thing I use a lot, text comparison. I like to compare all the different Bible translations or many of them. So I do that. And then I have this little thing here that it says update active layout. Well, how did I get that? Well, again, remember in our commands that we were looking at, I had typed in here, update, if I spelled it right, update active, and then there was my, I need layout. Update active layout. And what I did was I grabbed this and I just pulled it over here. What that does is when we get to layouts, I'm going to show you that allows me to update the layout with any changes I made, because what I do a lot is I play with things, and then I have this other command that I like that just closes all my windows. And then I can open a layout, and we'll get to that in a bit, different layouts. Let me go through these three menus. By the way, you see right now I'm at a blank screen. At any time I could click home, and that just comes right back. So what the home is, the way this is you click on it, it'll disappear. Click on it again, it shows up. So it's designed that you could just click on it during the day, and once a day, and look through it. So here's my library. I can click on this, and as you see it tells me I have 48,671 books or resources. That's a lot. You're not going to go, oh, let me find that book, let me just scroll down. No, you're not going to do that. What are you going to do? You're going to start typing. Well, I want MacArthur on Ephesians. So we're studying Ephesians. Well, here we go. Here's everything from MacArthur. So I can quickly find things like that. Now I see now, notice the number changed. I only have 6 resources. And what you end up seeing is that the way this is laid out, you notice this ranking. It has this ranking, and the ranking is, it'll give a ranking number. Now, I've chosen to have this, I just left there. I have this sorted by title, but you can sort this by the series. So if I just did MacArthur, we're going to have a whole bunch of MacArthur commentary series there. If I scroll this over, you could see I could sort it by the publisher. I could add my own tags in here, and I have that on some things where I've tagged it myself, and I'll have my own tags for books. You could do it by subject. Now, one of the things you're going to see is that, I'm going to have a rating here. When Logos first came out with this rating, this was the easiest way to get books to show up in a prioritized list. But they've added more to that. And so you could prioritize your list over here by just clicking this prioritize. And and we'll get this in later lessons, but just for those who are more advanced and want to learn how to improve just some simple things, is you notice here I have my Bibles. I put these in a specific listing. Well, when I have my top Bibles right here, all these are going to show up as my top Bibles, and this is going to be the order of these Bibles. Now, after this, after New King James, it's whatever order Logos chooses for me, and I'm fine with that. But I want these to show up in this order. And that becomes really important later on, and because that's going to have to do with why I say you want to have a Bible and a commentary up at the top. And it's going to be really helpful for you. We're going to get to it. But then after that, I'll have Bible dictionaries. I have my Bible encyclopedias ordered in the ways that I want the first several ones to show up. Okay, now you see some of these are bolded. See, MacArthur commentary is bolded, and you'll see that that's 30 volumes. The advantage of that is if I'm studying the book of Ephesians, this is the order these will show up in, and only the Ephesians commentary out of the MacArthur commentary set is going to be there. It's going to know that. So if you guys want to prioritize books, what you want to do is get the books you want and just drag them over. Do the find, get the books you want, drag it over. If you wanted to, you say, well, Jay, I just don't know which ones I want to do. You could go over here to subject and you can say, well, I want to sort by subject. Now I'm going to get a very different type of library here. I scroll back over. Now I have a library based on subjects. Okay. And so now it would be a subject. I don't know what we'll have under this. So there's only 2 books under Abrahamic religions, but you're going to have it based on whatever subject you chose. The other thing you could do, you could do it based on, like here's one where I put a tag of Islam. But you could do it based on your tags. You could do it on subject, but the best one to do is by type. If you want to do stuff like that, and types are going to be your Bible, that's one type, and you can see the different. And some of these are not going to be what we would think of as Bibles. There might be things that you think is, I think it's the Bible dictionaries that don't show up under the name dictionary. Well, here's a dictionary. Let's see what we get. Yeah, so these are English dictionaries, right? Those are not dictionaries that we think of as Bible dictionaries. And so the Bible dictionaries show up under, I got to think of what it's called again. I'm trying to remember the name of Bible dictionaries. I should just open some up. Okay, let's see. I don't think it's under. Oh, that's Bible. Someone's saying apparatus. Well, it's not the apparatus. That's going to deal with languages. Okay, those are concordance, which is not just concordances, but also your topical Bibles. This is actually where you get the benefit, and what I'm going to pull, well, I'm not going to take time, but if you go to the Logos camp, the advantage of going to Logos camp is that they're going to, Morris Proctor goes through this and explains each one of them so that you know which ones are which. So I'm just going to go back to my sorting by title, but you can then drag that. If you play around with that, you'll find which ones have the Bible commentaries in it or their dictionaries in it, and you can just drag them in the order that you want. This here is going to be one of the most useful things. This little icon that says search, you are going to use more than anything else because someone is going to say to you, well, I would like to know, for example, this morning in our study, in the men's study, we dealt with this thing, the crown of life. So you see, I put it in quotes and then I hit return. Now I'm on Bible. And you see each of these are something you could say, you could change the search. I could search while typing. I could just search. I could say, search all Bible text. These are different things you could break out, whether it's a quotation or things like that, so you can limit your search. I could say all passages, or I could just choose Psalms. I could say just the Gospels. These are common divisions, Old Testament, New Testament, the law, things like that. Or I could say all passages. I could say top Bibles. I could say all open Bibles. I could say all Bibles. So I'll say all Bibles. And I could just hit return. And now what this is going to do, I probably should have just said top Bibles because this will take longer. But what this is going to do, and you remember I said this was indexing. You may see this sometimes. Some search results may be missing or incorrect while it's updating. And that's something you'll see while it's indexing. I'm going to do that. I'm going to change this to top Bibles because the other might take too long. I have like 700 Bibles. So Crown of Life only appears twice in my top Bibles. In James 1:12, which is what we are studying, and Revelation 2:10. Now, the nice thing is, you see when I hover over that, it brings up the verse. If I click on that once, most of the times, see, it's going to bring this up. Now, here's the thing, though. Sometimes what I could do, you see how this has like the little M over here? Oh, sorry about that. Part of the thing we're going to have with me doing, I've never successfully been able to do Logos and a Google Hangout at the same time. So, because it's just, my computer just usually can't handle it. Okay. So if you see here that this kind of hovers, I hover over the footnote and it goes away when I move away from it. I can actually click on that once. And now you see how that stays there. And when I do that, I can hover over the verse and the verse will show up. And over this verse, the verse will show up. I could click on that verse and it'll bring me right there. So just some little things that you could do. But when you're within the search, you could just click on this and it'll bring up that verse. So one of the things I can quickly see is that Crown of Life only shows up specifically all those words, Crown of Life, places in the entire Bible. Well, then you say, well, what about crown? Well, I could just type and say, well, give me all the places that crown shows up. If I spelled it right, it would show up right. But spelling is not something that Logos can really help you with completely, but it will try. For example, when I start typing, you see that this is looking for something. It's going to start trying to figure out what it is I want to type. So if I just don't know how to spell things, I'd love to look something up on Barabbas, but you got me how to spell his name. I could just start and it will come up and give you some suggestions. But that takes time, and we're having the Logos kind of take its time here because of the fact that I'm indexing. So here's now all the places. Here's all the places that that the word crown is going to show up. You can quickly see that it shows up in 264 results, okay? 260 verses and 5 resources. What are the 5 resources? Well, my 5 Bibles. If I was to tell it, I just want this in the English Standard Version, and then it's just going to give me English Standard Version. So I can say this shows up 57 times in the English Standard Version. I could add other versions to that if I want. I say, well, I'd really like to know how the Holman Christian Standard has it. Well, now that shows up. You see, so I can add translations there as well. That's a Bible search. Your basic search is, I want to do a Crown of Life. Let's get back to that from this morning. And it's literally is what I did as someone asked the question, what is the Crown of Life? Well, I quickly typed this into a basic search, and I was using my Mac, so it was much faster. It's just that I don't have the Mac that I can't use the Mac for these Hangouts is the only problem. But what basically this does, and again, 2 things are going on. One, this is indexing, which means because it's not fully indexed, it's going to take a little bit longer. And I have a lot of resources. So here you have almost 6,000 results that show up in 4,500 articles, in 2,500 resources. Maybe some of you guys, if any of you guys have listened to the Bible Thumping Wingnut on Sunday nights, you usually do a thing with Matt Slick from Carm called Slick Answers. The thing that ended up happening was on was it, I guess, Resurrection Sunday, right? I forget when we did it. No, it was Christmas. It was for Christmas. We did a special thing. So here's an interesting thing. So many people focus on something like the incarnation. Now, I'm going to type incarnation. Did I spell it right? No. Incarnation. Now, this is going through 48,000 things. Now, look at this. Incarnation shows up 139,000 times in 67,000 articles in 13,000 resources. I mean, the incarnation seems to be a pretty popular, talked about thing. You know, we had a preacher in Atlanta or in Georgia that said that really the most important thing is the crucifixion, right? So, not spelling that right. I told you spelling is not my strong suit, so I'm kind of waiting on this, hoping this. Steve just says C. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I got that part. C. There we go. Thank you. I wanted to say S. And I knew that was wrong. Okay, so we had a pastor that said crucifixion is the most central thing. Well, if you notice, crucifixion doesn't show up as much as incarnation. You know, it's 67,000. And actually what he really said was that the resurrection is more important than the Bible, because the resurrection is what everything hinges on. Well, let's look at the resurrection. You could see how many results show up there. And so, and this wasn't resurrection. Now I'm trying to think of what it was we're trying, because there was something where it was that the one guy had said, and he used it, and he said that I forget the word he used, and it only showed up like in 13,000 times, where every other search we were doing, like, incarnation and atonement and these things that he said were not as necessary. We saw the whatever it was he focused on, always like 13,000 library results, and all these others had hundreds of thousands. But what you can quickly see here, by the way, is you could get lost if you have a lot of books, can't you? You can get lost in the study of looking at all of this. That's why you're going to want to see it. I have this sorted by rank. And the reason I do that is so I'm going to grab the things that I want first showing up when I do these kind of searches. Okay. Now they have, there's some searches where you can search for media. You could search for, if you're dealing with original languages, you could search for the clause and the morphology and the syntax. But I'm going to give you a really quick, since you're going to use search so often, I want you to notice something when I just click on the search and I put nothing in here. You notice this page that you have some pre-canned searches that Logos provides for you as basic help. So you have some basic searches. I could search for love. I can search for where love, hope, faith, where all these words show up. But they don't have to show up in any order. One, it might show up together. It could say, the hope of love and faith. That's still going to show up as long as the passage has, the verse has all three of those words. This is going to say any of those words. If I put commas there, any of those words. So let's click on this one and just show some of the differences in results. I can click on this, and then I click on the arrow or the return, and it goes through and it's going to search. So I'm going to see that there are 10 results in 3 verses, and the 10 results, because you're seeing here faith, hope, love. So that's 4. So 10 different times it's getting a hit on those, but we see 3 verses. But if I go back and click on this one where I'm saying faith, hope, and love with commas, let's see what this search result's going to give us. A little bit more. 865 verses. Why? Because it's saying where it has faith or hope or love, any one of them. If I want an exact phrase, I put it in quotes, like I did the crown of the crown of life. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I drink things, keep my throat moist. Now, here's where you get into some really fun things, and I encourage you to go through, if you have Logos, and play with each of these. See how they work differently, because this is where you're going to find some of the great value that Logos offers when you start looking at how you can do these different searches. Because you could search for things like the day of the Lord and judgment and eschatology. Now, you're not going to find the word eschatology in the Bible, but if you're on a basic search and you're doing that, that's going to come up with a lot of different hits. Okay, so this help list here that you have is for both your basic and your Bible, so you could use it for either one. And basic, remember, is going to go through your library, and let me show you this as well. When we go to basic, you can search where I showed you on the Bible. You could change the version. You know, you could change what passages. Well, on basic, you have some things you can edit there as well. You can say, you could choose, again, you have some things. Well, that's a bad one to do. These are different ways of limiting your searches. Okay. I basically very rarely use that, but I do this one. Now, you see that this is working on something, right? I'm going to show you what it's working on. What it quickly comes up with is you could do everything. Everything is the kitchen sink. It's going to go through everything that you have. That's different than all resources, because there's some things that are not considered resources that get included in your everything. But you could go through the fact books, which we'll get to, I doubt today, but maybe another time. You can look through atlases. You could look through your documents. Community tags is going to be stuff that's on that Faith Life social media group that I told you about. You could just go through what's ever open. But if you notice, down here, there's these Bibles and collections. These are things I created. So I have a collection called MacArthur, where MacArthur is the author. So I have author MacArthur books. If I click this and I put something in the find, okay, I'm going to get only things where MacArthur. So if I wanted to search for everywhere where MacArthur dealt with the cross, I could just say MacArthur books and type in here cross, and I'm going to get everywhere that John MacArthur wrote a book and spoke about the cross. Now, if I do everything, I'm going to get a lot more. But sometimes I want just a specific author. Or, it's going to work for a second here. I'm just waiting for it to finish. Okay. I can go, and these are things that we'll get to at later times. Or if you go to the Logos camp, you're going to get this. But I've set up things for Bible dictionaries, English Bibles, Greek Bibles, Hebrews Bibles, different commentary. I have commentaries on every book of the Bible so that I can search commentaries. This is stuff that I set up, okay? But this saves you lots of time, and it's actually easy to set up. Once you start doing it, you learn how to do it, and you set them all up, and it becomes very easy. But it's going to remember what I do. So you know what? I want to go back to all resources because I don't want to forget that sometime in the future. Oops, and now look, we have hundreds of thousands of times the cross is mentioned. You can have some really cool searches that you could do. As you see, hold on a second. Okay, so some really cool searches that you could do here that become very, very valuable. I want it everywhere where Jesus and not Christ, where it's only Jesus mentioned. You have this one. You could say where I want Paul or Saul of Tarsus. Now you see how it's in brackets. So I'm saying I want Paul or Saul of Tarsus, and Saul of Tarsus is in quotes. So I want it specifically the word Saul of Tarsus or the name Paul, and I want apostle, but I don't want missionary. You see how you can join these together, these search results, And it gives you so much. You could do, I love this one a lot, where you could say, I want the person, Jesus, or the person, God. And you see, again, that's in brackets to keep the or together. And you could say where it intersects with the speaker, Jesus. In other words, I could say I want the speaker or the audience. Here, I want the speaker. Jesus is speaking. We'd call that the red letter print, but I turned that off, by the way. That's something else you could do on some of the Bible. You could turn that off if you prefer not to have red letter. I think I turned it on for showing something this morning, so it may still be on. But you could do things where I want where Paul is speaking, and the topic might want to be marriage. So husbands or wives or something like that. And you could say, well, I want Paul where the speaker, and you got to pay attention to these little squiggly lines. And the nice thing about that is if you click on this, you see how it instantly jumps up there? So if I want to say that the speaker is person Paul, I could just change that. If I don't want this other part, I just delete that. Now I don't have to worry about the syntax of it, and I just click return, and it goes through. Oh, I didn't want to do it there. Let me go to a Bible one. And now I'll go through, and now I have everywhere in my ESV, because that's which one I chose here, everywhere where Paul is the speaker. And look at that. We have things in Acts. Okay. So you could do things like that. That becomes very, very helpful. So I use ones like where it says speaker, things like that a lot. But then this one I use a lot as well. You can say Jesus before Christ, or Jesus after Christ, or Jesus near Christ. So what's near? Well, I'm not sure how many words you have to be near, define near. But I do know that you could do things like this. I want Jesus within 4 words of Christ. So if I click on this one, just for a quick example, here you see here, Jesus who is called Christ. Well, those are 3 words. That's the 4th word. That's 4 words. So Jesus is within 4 words of Christ. So that shows up. If I said, so what verse is that? That's Matthew 1:22. If I said 3 words, Matthew 1:22 doesn't show up anymore, does it? So that's going to be, if when you want to do things like that, it could be very helpful where, I know this word is near that one, but I don't quite, know where it is. If you want to study, if you want to do things, we're going to look at the fact book. It becomes very helpful, but you could do things like person Moses, or place Jerusalem, or things Aaron's rod. Okay. All these different things that you could go and click on. Well, you're not going to, well, here you're going to get where the person Moses is talked about. But where it's going to grab this idea of a person, place, thing, that's going to be from what's called the fact book. And the fact book is just gathering these things together into one book that has all the facts of person, places, and things. You could do things like where a sense of a cure. So the word may not be cure. So if I'm going to search the Bible on this one, healed shows up. Heal. Well, those are the idea. It has the sense of to cure. So I don't even have to, it's kind of more of a fuzzy search. I don't quite know what it is. And I could do things like that. Okay. So the question that popped up is, show us how to use the Bible with Greek translation side by side. We're going to get to some of that in a bit. There's some different ways you could do that. And I typically don't do some of the side by side because, well, we'll get to it. So some of the things, as you get more advanced, as you go down this, you could do things where I want a specific reference. This becomes very helpful if you're going through a basic study and you're going to want to go in and you want where they specifically reference John 3:16. Well, if you want just, this first one is going to capture John 3:1-17. That's going to be in the reference. Where this next one with the equal sign, I want an exact match. I mean, they mention specifically John 3:16. So you could do things like that. There's a whole bunch of things you could do with words of Christ. Words of Christ, where Christ spoke and mentioned blessed. Where there's footnote. If you want to, somewhere there was a footnote on infant baptism. We can't do that one searching the Bible because, well, even if you got rid of the footnote, that wouldn't appear. Just a joke to those Presbyterians out there. Don't shoot me. We all know it's not in the Bible. No. But I'm not going to, I understand for the Presbyterians, it's something that you're going to get from a covenantal way of looking at Scripture and theology. So it's not that it is without reason that our Presbyterian brethren argue that, but you're not going to see infant baptism in the Bible, period. But you're going to not find a lot of things in the Bible, like Trinity. You could do a search here on specific, on Josephus or Philo, things like that. You could do a search on the Strong's numbering. If someone says, well, Strong's numbering, they're trying to impress you, and you could just do that search real quick. If you're ever dealing with Black Hebrew Israelites, they do that all the time. It's like they have Strong's memorized or something, but they always give you the Strong's numbering. And sometimes I think it's just because they think like that shows that they've done their study, when really anyone that really does original work knows that very few people use Strong's when you're doing a lot of original work. That's like the basic where you start. But I've done this before with a guy online, and he mentioned Strong's numbering, so I just quickly looked it up because it was easy enough to do a quick search. I could do Hebrew words. I could do Aramaic words. I could do Greek words. So this is all, and you see, I mean, as I just keep going here, just to show you, these are all the examples that they provide. I want to know everywhere in Psalms where Moses wrote, or where Proverbs, choose one of these things, where the type is advice, or things like that. These are, I mean, you're seeing as I just scroll down here all of the searches that they provide. I'm going to encourage you to go through this and play with that. You want to search something, just open this up blank and just go through this whole long list and see what might work first. Okay. That's going to be really helpful. So let's go through the documents. Documents are going to be things that Logos builds. What you see here is, I was working on something this week where someone asked a question about Son of Man versus Sons of Man. So I was looking through all I did a quick search, and my search, great, Logos not responding. I did warn you guys this was probably going to happen at some point with my equipment. So this will be a good time. I'll give a quick plug for something else while this is coming. Oh, now it comes up. I'm going to drop in the chat a link and I'll drop it in YouTube as well. If anyone would like to help us be able to get some new equipment so that we could do more things like this and not have problems with the computer, Striving for Eternity is trying to raise some funds for computer and other equipment, some equipment for podcasting and things like that, and video editing, all this stuff. And so that you can help us there. So if you just go to youcaring.com, just search for Striving for Eternity Ministries, I think it'll show up from just doing that. But I'll put the link in the description of this video as well. Anyway, so here I was looking in the New American Standard. I was looking for everywhere Son of Man, Sons of Man, and notice how I have the quotes here, Son of Men and Sons of Men in my top Bibles. And so this then gives me all of that, and I saved it to a list. And because I knew I was going to come back to this later. Well, that becomes a document. When I did that search, when I went in here and I did that search, say, for example, Crown of Life, And I have that search. Oh, I should have done that in Bible. Sorry. You always have to keep in mind that this is going to remember, because I left it on basic, it comes back in as basic. So I can save this as a, if I want, I can save this list as a document. And so when I do that, what ends up happening is it shows up here in my list here. And so you have clippings. Clippings are going to be, this is you want to create a biographical list of all the books you're using. You can create that. Clippings are things you want to just grab some quotes and different clippings from your library as you're studying things. You're going to see, for example, here's Ephesians. I have an Ephesians clipping, but I'm also going to have an Ephesians Bible. These are my notes. See that this says notes? This is going to be my notes that I write, where clippings are going to be a bunch of different quotes or things that I'm going to grab from different books and libraries. I can create handouts. I can create passage lists. I can create prayer lists. I can create reading plans, sentence diagrams. If I want to create those on my own, which become really important. If you've taken our class on hermeneutics, on how to interpret the Bible, those are important to do. So those will be all your documents if you want to look for those. Real quick on this are our passage guides. I'm going to go over this in a second. So we're going to go to tools real quick. In the tools, what you have is the collections are where you get those collections that I love Steve already. We've barely met, and I love Steve already because he said, I love sentence diagrams. People don't understand. If you want to study the Bible, and Steve, I'm going to show you a way to quickly get that if you want to cheat. But sentence diagramming is one of the most important things you could do when interpreting a passage, because it A, slows you down, but B, it's going to get you to think through what supports what in the sentence structure. Really, really important to do. Yeah, block diagramming, sentence diagramming. It's really important. The collections are that thing I was showing you earlier, where I said here's how you build those collections. Okay. If you get the Logos mobile ed courses, you could click on this and it brings up a tool to help you with those. You can set favorites. You can set highlighting. Let me go into highlighting real quick to show you something. And this is going to be something just with my oddities, but let's bring up a Bible. By the way, I don't know why they bring a Bible always to the right. I prefer on the left, so I just drag it over. And you see how you drag it? You see how it's a little darker area? That's where it's going to land. I could see if I let go of it now, it's going to take over the whole area. If I take this again and just go over that area, it's going to be just this blue area that's here. Okay. If I go to, I'm trying to think of a book. Let's see, where were we? Okay, here. I knew we just got done teaching Hebrews. I love listing things. Okay. I love seeing things that are listed. So I created my own highlighting system right here. Okay. I have two that I created: Inductive Bible Study, which is this one here. And by the way, I got this from that Logos Pro class on Matthew that they did last year, where it's learning how to study the Bible in 30 days. And they taught you to do this. And I've used that now all the time. I love it. I usually shut it off so you can't see it, because what it'll do is, well, I could show you a passage maybe sometime. I'll show you. But what you can see here is I have this. See this? These are my shortcuts. So I can hit 1 through 0, and it's going to put it in a list of 1 to 10. If I have to go to 11 or 12, I got to go to my highlights tab here. But all I got to do is I select a text, and then I hit the number 4. And what it's going to do is, like, if you could see here, these are just a list of things. This ended a list of 6 things. Here's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different things that he ends this book with a list of things. And I like, because of the way I am, I like to see those things listed. So what did I do? I wanted it those lists to be highlighted, and I want it numbered, but I don't want to get it confused with a number that might be one of the footnotes. So I stick it in red with brackets around it. You could do things like that with your highlighting. They give you a bunch of canned ones that you could do, that you can click on, and you could see all these. You'll see that I have blue, green, orange, purple, red, and yellow. Those are because I use those as highlighters for different things. So those have shortcut keys. Okay, not going to go over now how to do those, but those are things that you have available. So that's some things you can do with highlighting. You have history. You can actually go right out to Wikipedia, you know, that wonderful source of all things that are almost true. I don't recommend you using that for your, you know, more serious papers. But if you have quick things, Wikipedia is not always good when it comes to religious things, just saying. You remember I said about the faith life? You have things like ask the author, and you can ask the author. Now, depending how active the author is. Now, I say that for this reason. If you decide you're reading MacArthur's commentary and you say, you know, I want to ask John MacArthur something. And you say, John, I got a question for you. I'm reading this commentary. I noticed you said this. Is that what you mean? Is this a typo? For example, one realistic one we got was, I noticed in the Spanish version of your commentary, it says this. Should it say that? Well, I know that happened because if you happen to ask John MacArthur, that's actually going to come to me because I happen to be the one that manages the page for John MacArthur. And then I send it off to him. He gives an answer and I send it back. But some authors are active in the Faith Life page, and you'll get direct answers to them. Those questions end up showing, you could show those in those resources, and those will show up. So you could, if you have the same question, sometimes you could go to them. If people are discussing this within the Faith Life community group, that social network, you can have those show up. You can have your group show up. And so those are some of the things. So what you're seeing here is this is much broader than just Bible software, but actually bringing people together and discussing the Bible. You could bring that into that as well. You can do looking at atlases, and so you could see these different things that you have here. I don't want to go through all of them. The concordance I'll save for another time. We should look at that. The interactive media is going to be something that's really fun to play with, but we don't have time today. All right, so I want to give you some things if you want to just get started. So let's say you're brand new. You've never used Logos before. You want to study something. Joe's raising his hands. Joe, I need to know something, though. Did you get that? Did you buy Logos from Striving for Eternity's link? Yes or no? No. Oh, I can't believe you. For how long have I been saying that we have a link? So what you missed out on, Joe.
I have to explain to you what happened.
Okay.
Got a free download for, it was like the basic. It was a $300 value. All right. So to buy the silver on your page was almost $1,400. To buy it on Lifeway, since I had that $300 basic, I was able to buy it for $1,000.
Through, you said, was it through Lifeway, or that was?
Yeah. What is it? Not
through Logos. Through Logos is the weekend special that they were doing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. They were giving it away free. See, I can't compete when they do that, and
I would have loved to bought it for you. If you would have been able to price match, I would have been there.
Oh, yeah, I fully understand. So here's what we have, and I just put the link out for folks, and I encourage you, if you guys could share that link. Here's what we do. Striving for Eternity has an agreement with Logos, and what they have is if you don't own Logos at all and you purchase it, you go to logos.com/partner/striving. You get a special offer for people that are from our ministry, and what it is they give, I forget if it's a 10 or 20% off, and you can look at the price in there. You also get a free book that we have chosen, which is Spurgeon's commentary on Hebrews. And that comes as a free gift from Striving for Eternity if you get it through us. That's something that we have worked out with them and provide. But Joe, just wanted to save some money. Man, oh man. I would probably recommend doing the same thing. So you're here at the homepage, and so Joe just got it. He's brand new, and he says, I would like to study. Well, I know what Joe wants to study, because Joe is planning on Monday night. He knows he's got a Bible study that he's got to be part of, and we're studying through the book of Ephesians. Now, notice I didn't type all of Ephesians. I just typed Ephesians. In fact, I didn't even put a space between Ephesians and the number 3. Notice what it immediately came out. Oh, it's giving me a bunch of lists. And notice it has Ephesians 3, but then it tries to get these groups that it thinks it's breaking down. But you see, Joe knows that we didn't quite finish, and so we kind of left off in verse 18. So I'm just going to put a dot there because that's less keystrokes than a colon, and I'm going to put 18. And he knows that since I'm teaching, I'm ambitious, and I think that we're going to get all the way to 4 verse 8. So he's going to study that out. Now notice how, even though I didn't put spacing and I put dots instead of colons, Logos says, hey, that's fine. We'll help you. We'll figure it out. And it's trying to give some different groups, but I want that specific passage. So I say, go. And by the way, anyone is welcome to join that Ephesians Bible study. It's on the same YouTube channel, the Striving for Eternity. We do it Monday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern time. It's open to all. You don't have to agree with us theologically. Actually, we prefer those who don't. I'm also saying that just while Logos is doing some searching here. But if you want to join that and you want to discuss the passage, all we do is say, please come and study beforehand. Do some study beforehand. So it's not me teaching, but it's all of us looking at the text and dealing with what the text says together. Now, you're noticing that this is taking some time to pull some things up. What this is doing is, and if my computer was faster, it would be done already, but Logos is going to pull up some basic things. 1, it pulls up this passage guide. 2, it pulls up this exegetical guide. Those are those 2 guides that I said we're going to deal with today. It pulls those 2 up. It pulled up all my top Bibles over here. It pulls up a study Bible down here. Now, the study Bible it pulls up is the Faith Life Study Bible. That's the one that they have where they've worked online and build the community. It pulls up a text comparison here. Okay. And then this information bar. So this is the default that Logos has designed. Now, you see how this is taking a long time to pull these things up? There's a way to speed that up. You see this little arrow that's pointing down? You see how all these arrows are pointing down? You can close that and now have it pointing that way. I could close the commentaries, and that just closes up that link. And so one of the things that I do, you're seeing it's taking this quite some time. But if I close all these, the next time I come in, if I have these, whichever ones I have open, okay, let's just do this. I think there's a way. I thought there was a way to collapse all. So let me see if I just, yes, collapse all. So if I right click on this one here, on any of these, right, I can collapse all or expand all. Okay. Now, what's the advantage of that? Well, if I close this out, say I accidentally closed it out. Now it was still trying to, so we just got to give it a split second because my computer's not responding. There we go. Now, I didn't mean to close that out. Let me go back and open the passage guide. Okay, it brings this up. Now notice it didn't actually start it yet until I hit return. See how much quicker that was? You don't see all those things scrolling. What this now is doing is, because I closed them first, and so I encourage someone, like in your case, Joe, open the passage guide, collapse them all, then close it. Now I happen to like my passage guide over here, so I'm just going to take it and drag it over. Oh, come on.
Andrew, you may mind if I come in for a sec?
Of course I do, but go ahead. No.
Thank you. You've mentioned Camp Lagos a few times. I just want to let everybody know the website for that is not Lagos, but it's mpseminars.com. I put the link in the Hangout chat. Also, if you are a student of seminary, there may be deeper discounts. Besides this 10% from Sheriff for Eternity. I remember when I bought mine, I got the 10% plus an additional 30% because I was going to school.
So thank you, because I forgot about that. Yeah, you get, if you are a seminary student, Bible student, I think you get like 40% off on the Lagos. And so I had to turn Mitch up a little bit with the volume, so I'm dropping it in the chat here. And I should say the inside chat, because there's two chats with Google Hangouts. So I don't know if you guys have been chatting on the outside chat, someone's going to have to add me to it so I could see it. But mpseminars.com is the link that you want to go to for search, for the Lagos training, the Lagos camps. Now notice how you see this little orange, that little orange area. This window, if I drop it here, you see how the blue area is covering the whole thing? Or I could drop it just on the top or just on the bottom. I wouldn't usually like to do that, but if I drop it on the bottom, you see it's going to split that window. If I wanted it up here, that orange bar says that this is going to be on the right of the exegetical guide. If I go over here, it'll now be on the left, and I can let go, and it's right where I wanted it to be. So that's something you could do with moving things around. This screen that you see here is called your layout, and you can save those over here in layouts. I'll just show you real quick, and then we're going to get to the passage guide. But with the layouts, you're going to see over here, you see this one's not named. I can save this as a named layout, and it will show up right here in your layouts. You can see every time, this is when I close the application. Well, I can save that, or, I could just delete that. I don't want that one. This was my Ephesians study, because that was the last thing I was doing. And so I have that, and I could rename it. I could delete it. I could click on it, and it'll open that layout. Okay. So, well, let's just do that real quick. I hope it'll be real quick. And so the advantage of layouts, while my computer's not responding and wakes itself up, the advantage of the layouts is, if you saw, I have a layouts for end time studies, because I've been asked to do some different studyings on end times. And so I have all the resources kind of set the way I want for that study. I have things like this class that we're doing, this Bible study we're doing in Ephesians. Well, when we're having the class, the screen that's coming up now is what I see when I'm doing my study. Now, there's one extra thing here, and that's someone brought up the question of face-to-face on a separate thing, and that was in here, that all the places where face-to-face shows up. But I have, my ESV that we're going to look at, and that'll show up here. Now, I haven't saved this for a while, and so it's showing up with, Ephesians 2, and it should be Ephesians 3. But that's easily fixed. And once I fix it, I would click the update right up here. And then the next time I show up, it would have that. Now, I want to get back to that previous layout. Well, this is what it is now, but I have that snapshot that we had just before. I could click on that. It's going to close all of these windows, and it's going to bring back the one that I just was on a moment ago. And granted, with this computer, it takes a little bit longer. And so it brings us right back to where we were. You can save that if you want to. So what you'll see here is this quick start layout. Logos provides some layouts that you can play with and see how you like them, and you can update them. You could change them as you want. You could load it, you could replace it, you could do, whatever you want. Then you have some homepage layouts, Bible reading, lectionary, passage guide, topics that you want to do, and you can play with those layouts. These are all the ones I saved. I have my devotional study, my end time study, Ephesians, James, because I had some different books in James that I wanted. This was one that I created at the Logos camp, and I just never got rid of it. This should say, this is my last study. This is actually what we're teaching in our Wednesday night class. I have Logos training. I have a bunch of books where, these manuals that I pointed out here, Logos has their camps, and different camps. They have different training videos. I actually set that up in its own layout so that I can always go back to that and pick up right where I left off in my taking of their videos. Power reading is something that I use just for all it is. All the power reading is my Bible is half the page, and this information page is half the page. And the reason for that, if I go over, if I go over a word and click on this in my Bible, you all of a sudden see something happening over here in the information page. It's going to come up with first one is a dictionary definition. It's going to come up with the Greek. And so I'm going to see here different things about the word, info about the word. Sorry. And so you have different things you can end up looking at. And if I click on a different word, this is one of the quickest ways for me when someone says, what does this word mean? Well, I don't have the Greek memorized. What's the Greek word? The quickest way is for me to click on it. But you see, as I hover over it, look down here, look down at this where my mouse is here. As I hover over generations, you see it'll give you some information about it. Here's information about the word comprehend. Here's about the word know. Okay, so you can end up just as I hover over these things, you can quickly see, so this word work is a singular feminine. You have the Strong's number. You can quickly see it's a verb. It's present, middle, participle. Well, if you understand the Greek and you understand those things, you can quickly look at that, and just by hovering over it, you can get that information. Or I can click on it, and when I click on it, it's going to give me that information here. And so I may want to look at that here. And so here I see, oh, it's a verb, and I don't know what middle means. So what do? I hover over middle, and it says it's a grammatical voice that signifies that the subject of the verb is being affected in its own action, is acting upon itself. Oh, okay, now I know what middle voice means. I can just hover over it, and I can have that. Now I know what it means. I could click on it, and it'll give me accusative. Oh, that's an accusative. What's an accusative? I can look that up. Okay. So when you hear people say, well, this is a present tense, present middle, and you're going, what does that mean? Well, I can just hover over this and I could figure that out. Even if I don't know Greek, this helps with some of that, when you want to look at that. Okay. So now remember I said that we have all these things collapsed. Well, they come that way. It's quicker in doing this. Now, these are all the sections that Logos puts in, but you can add sections to this. You can remove sections from this. Same with the exegetical guide. Okay, the exegetical guide is going to have sections in there, and you can add to that. You can remove from that. And if I click on it, it's going to say not responding, which is very nice. Let's see. I'm just going to take a look at my computer. So yeah, the CPU is kind of being. I guess I closed the exegetical guide by accident. No? Okay. So let me go to the top of the exegetical guide. So this is the exegetical guide is going to be dealing with the words. Okay. And so what you're going to have is your sections. I'll just close this for a second. You have textual variants, Most people aren't going to care about that. You see how now it's starting to build that? You notice that? It didn't build it till I opened it. Okay. If I open the word for word, because that was already built, that's going to open very quickly because it was already built. Textual variants, it didn't start. So I'm going to open up the visualizations. And as soon as I click on that, now it's building that. It's going out and building this table of things at that moment. And so for a lot of people, you're not going to worry about these things, but the word for word is really helpful. What the word for word does, here's Ephesians 3:18. Here's your Greek. Here's your English. I happen to have the ESV. So Joe asked the question earlier, can you go through and go word by word? This is one way you could do it, where as you highlight your English word, it also highlights your Greek word. If I'm not sure, here's the word depth, I could click on that and it's going to jump me right to depth. If you happen to have this becomes really helpful. This is how Joe is going to impress his friends by saying, well, I don't know how to pronounce that Greek word, but he's going to click on this. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Oh, probably won't be able to hear it through the speakers, but it'll pronounce this word for you. Okay, so Barthos, they would pronounce it sounding much better than me, by the way. But you could click on this that we'll get to maybe next time we do one of these hangouts, the word study, really important thing, but we only have 2 hours. So that's one way, Joe, you can do that. Okay. If you see a word here that's not highlighted, you could click on it and it would bring it up. Now I have this set so that it brings up most of the major words, but things like the word and, I don't need to know. I can close this as I work verse by verse through here. And I do this often. I'll work verse by verse through all the Greek words. So like for here, the word surpass, I might want to look that up and it doesn't show up, since it's grayed out, it's not showing up in my list. Well, actually it is right there. Wonder why it's grayed out in the English. But usually the words that are grayed out are words that are going to not show up in the list, and you just click on them and they show up. But you can go verse by verse, working your way through this. And this is for most people, the word by word is the most important thing of the exegetical guide. But let's go through just some of these things real quick. You can look at your commentaries. Okay, now you see it's going to build them. Now, it builds them with with a top list. Remember, I prioritize my list. So the MacArthur Study Bible shows up pretty high, right? Then I have some different commentaries, but notice here, this is one of a commentary set that I talked about earlier. And the Ephesians one is going to show up because I'm looking at Ephesians. Okay? So you could keep this open now. It's already built. You could close it if you want. I tend to close it before I close this because remember, when I close this panel, Logos is going to remember how I stored this. So if I close all these before I hit X, when I come in, it comes very quickly, and then I can just click on these. And you could go through each of these. Most of them are very straightforward. You could figure out what they are. Confessional documents are going to be your confessional documents. Not hard. Biblical people, places, things that deal with this passage. And so you want to know what they are, you could just you just single click, sorry. I want to know the biblical places and things. I just click on them. If I want to look at cultural concepts, I click on it. It's going to build that. So some cultural concepts that are in this passage: baptism, persecution, those show up. Okay. These are going to give you a background into those cultural concepts. And same thing is going to be with the biblical people, places, things, as it goes off and tries. And the more books you have, the more things it has to go through to study, to pull these lists together. So it's going to be a little bit more intensive if you have more that you have to pull in. And so this becomes good. You have your topics. You have sermons. What sermons is a couple different things. these sermons are ones some pastors or some people, I should say, not just pastors, have put their sermons into here. Let's see if I close these, if that'll, maybe I'm pulling up too much at once here. But sermons are going to be sermons that people have stored in Logos. Logos had many years ago a page where you could store your sermons and put them in. And so there's a few of mine up there that once I realized how that it was putting it online, I was like, oh no, I wanted to pull those back because they were just my notes. So they had my spelling errors and poor grammar, and I really was just notes. But you can you could go through people's sermons. Central that you could pay for, sermon audio. You know, I think those are paid. Same with Graceway Media. I think it's not a paid thing. But there's different things you can look at. You can change the order of these. Okay. I can move ancient literature up. I can bring it back. And all I'm doing is I'm clicking on it and moving it. And it tells me where I'm, you know, that little bar shows me where it's going to drop. And then this would be saved as I move that around. And so I can move things to the top or to the bottom as I like. And so you could say, okay, well, you know, I like these two. I don't want to take such a big passage. Maybe I know Andrew has the strange belief that we're going to get through into chapter 4, but he never does it. So I'm just going to study verse 21, and you could just click on that, change it, and that's going to pull, you know, these things up now for that passage that you have. But notice this one didn't change. This is still going word by word all the way to 4:8. There's a way to link those together. We could do that another time, but there is a way to do that. Okay, so we have maybe 15 minutes left. Let me see. Steve, you asked the question. Maybe it'd be helpful for them to learn how to link. Oh, okay. So you're saying it would be helpful, so then I'll do it. So if you see this little arrow right here, there's a little arrow that I can click. And when I click on that, a couple things come up. One, if you're older, you can, or just poor eyesight, you can make the font larger. Or if you're younger and like to fit as much as you possibly can on the screen, you can go down here and make it really small. But you can adjust the font for your resource to however it is best for you. If I change the font of this resource, okay, let me make it like obscenely large so you can see. That doesn't change this resource over here, this Holman. If I bring up a new, if I drag a new English Standard Bible in here, by the way, you could do that. You could take this and just drag it in. It's going to remember where I had it. But if I go here, and by the way, do you see it? This one's a little bit larger. That's the default. So if I go here, it doesn't change my other English Standard Version. Okay? So that's something you could do. Let me change the font back. Now, when I first came in, these were all linked. Remember, I closed this down by, you know, earlier. But you see how there's this little A here, and a little A here, and a little A here. If I click down on that arrow, I have link set A. So if I change this, Ephesians 3:20, I say I want 21. Notice how all these other windows changed. I'm sorry. I guess it changed to 18. Okay. So if I change this, let's change that to 20. My Life Study Bible changed to 320. And this text comparison changed to 320. That's what linking will do. And what you do, if I want to change that in this passage guide, I would just click over here to the A, and you can have up to 5 different ones. You see how that changed to Ephesians 3:20. If I go over here and I click this to A, I could change it to B. Well, now they added another one. So you could have up to 6 link sets. So you could I could set these couple of windows to B, this one to A, and I could do things like that. See how now the exegetical guide, that changed as well. So if I wanted to say I want 1821 and I hit return, okay, or I hit the arrow, either one, notice how this window changed. It says the passage guide, that says 18 to 21. Notice that my Bible changed. My study Bible changed, and my comparison changed, because they're all linked together. So when you're studying through, that becomes really helpful in keeping all your windows so that you don't have to change it here and then go and change it under the passage guide, then change it in your Bible. But you see this one here, that isn't set to link set A. Didn't change. This one here is going to be the same thing. Okay. Now, I said I would show one thing for Steve, since he loves the diagramming, which is good. You have these visual things that you could see. So these little 3 round buttons. And there's a lot here we could get through at a different time. But there's this thing called propositional outlines. And you click on that and watch what's going to happen. Boom. What now happens, if you're familiar with block diagramming, is that has done the block diagramming for you, and it tells you this is explanation. This is a purpose statement. And if you hover over it, you can read what the purpose statement is. What does it mean? It's an experience. The speaker is describing someone or something. So it just tells you what that means. It gives you something about this, and you can quickly see this is a purpose. These support the purpose. Okay, that's a quick cheating way of doing it. It's not as, you're not going to learn as much as doing it by doing it yourself. But I'll give you one other cheat since we're there. When we have our passage guide here, you can go to visualizations, and give me a sec to find it. I might be under here. Okay. So you can go to visualizations, and you have a couple of different ones you could choose, like opentext.org. Now, remember, I'm in Ephesians 3:18. I click on this. Because I'm in Ephesians 3:18, it opens to Ephesians 3:18. And now we're going to have Steve go, wow, this is great. Here's the text here, and here's your your sentence diagramming, and it gives you this little A. Well, that's an adjunct. The P, that's, and you could just hover over these, and it's going to tell you what each one of these are. If you're familiar with block diagramming, this becomes really fun to do, but you're seeing that where it's indented, you can quickly see what's, this is not going to be a main point, a main clause. It's going to be a supporting clause because it's indented. This will be a major clause. It's actually a secondary clause. So there's some primary clause that's going to refer to. And you see, as I hover over, as I hover over this SC, down here, it's going to tell me secondary clause, and it's going to highlight the entire secondary clause. Okay. There's some other ones that you could look at in here that do the same thing. That's going to be under your exegetical guide for visualizations, if you like playing with those sort of things. That's going to be way too much for some people, and Joe is going, wow, that's confusing. But if you took the class that we had, the 20 lessons on how to interpret the Bible, or, biblical hermeneutics, our School of Biblical Hermeneutics, that is on the same YouTube page, or you could go to strivingforeternityacademy.org, or just go to strivingforeternity.org and click the Academy button. Either way, you get to the same place. You'll see our classes on the on biblical hermeneutics, and we teach people how to do block diagramming. But if you have this, you don't have to do that. You can just join right in. Now, Kofi is saying he's teaching Ephesians right now. This would prove so useful as we hit the home stretch. But the problem is now that he has admitted that, he has now committed himself to coming Monday nights to our Bible study on Ephesians, where he can give us, since he's in the home stretch of Ephesians and we're only ending chapter 3, he now has the responsibility of helping us along. So he's now on the hook. We did have, if any of you haven't heard of Pastor Austin Hessler, great preacher, and you could he loved it because he's preaching through Ephesians, and so he was able to just he was ahead of us in his sermon prep, and then he went on a short-term missions trip, and we caught up and passed him. So now we're providing his sermon prep. But he's a great, if you haven't heard him preach, I encourage you to go G220 Radio on Blog Talk, blogtalk.com, I think it is, and look for G220 Radio, and his sermons are always there after Sunday. And Kofi, you'd have a lot to offer because we even allow latent flowers in. So you realize that, we allow the lightweight so you could be the heavyweight. No, I'm only kidding, Leighton. Leighton always knows if you use his name. And he posts links to his blog. He'll have a blog up on that by tomorrow. He knows I'm kidding too. I love him, even though I disagree with his theology. But so this is just some basic things that, we had 2 hours. When you go to the Logos camp, it's like 3 or 4 days, and it's packed in. But I'm hoping that whether this is your first time in Logos or not, I gave you a quick enough overview that if you're brand new, this was overwhelming. Someone like Joe that just got it recently is going to be going back and watching this video again. But for some others, I'm hoping that there were at least some things that I gave you that would be new. But the thing is that really what you're going to want to do is, we're going to probably have more of these, and we'll dig in deeper and go into a little bit more detail in areas, because one of the things I'd really like to do is get into where you can, a lot of times what people want to do is some stuff with the Greek. So let me quickly show you one thing that I said up here. You want to have a Bible, one commentary on the whole Bible, whatever it is, whether it's a study Bible or whether it's like, I have JFB, the Jameson Robertson Foist, because that's a commentary on the whole Bible, and it's one I'm going to go to often. So what I usually do is I could click on it, or I could just drag it down here. Okay. Now, I have all these Bibles up here. If you are OCD like me, you don't like that. So what do you want to do? I want to close all of these. I don't like them. And so I'm going to close these up because I don't want to have them all up all the time. There may be times I want to have one up. Like maybe I want to have this one linked to letter A, and I want to drag another ESV over here that I might, want to look up cross-references. I don't know if this is a good cross-reference, but I don't even know what this is, but we'll just, I might want to look up this verse. So I might want to have one that I just do for jumping around the Bible, but I definitely don't want this jumping around. I don't want all my links jumping around. So I'll typically have one Bible that's linked and one that's not. But I'm going to show you one of the things that I think is the neatest thing that saves you not only window space, but a lot of time. Because when you're studying a passage, I'm going to go through Ephesians, this passage in Ephesians. I am going to read this in almost every translation, many of the English translations that I have. What am I going to do? All I'm going to do right now is I'm going to click the right arrow key and watch what happens to my Bible. It just went to the Holman. I'm going to click the right arrow key again. So notice it's staying in the same passage. And it's going to my Lexham. Now, this is not the way Lexham usually shows up, but in my case for the Lexham, I had that outline set up, and I had, because I like that outline, right? So I did that. And I also had the inline Greek here. So I have my Greek right here as well. That's how I like that Bible. and it remembers that. If I hit the right arrow button again, remember my prioritized list, that's what's determining this. I go again, there's the Net Bible. I go right arrow again, my New King James. Remember I said that after New King James, it's up to Logos. So which one shows up next? Well, Logos decides that the Lexham high definition should be next. And I could right arrow again. And the authorized shows up. And now I could do the left arrow and work it backwards. So it's going to go to Lexham. I do the left arrow again. It's going to be New King James. I'm going to do it again. It's the Net and New American Standard. And I can just right and left arrow key, read that translation, go to the next one with one key. Read it, go to the next one. Read it, go to the next one. Read it, go to the next one. If I ever want to get back, what it's actually doing, you see these two things is called parallel resources. Here's the list that it's going through. This list right here. Now, am I going to get through all of them? I usually don't get through all of them. But you can move the order. See, this is all the parallelized. These are all the parallel resources. And you could change the order. So I want Young's literal translation to show up. Well, yeah. No, I must have clicked on. So I want Young's literal. I could scroll down, click on that, and that one's going to show up. Now, if I want Young's literal to be higher in the list, I would find it here. I have the Chinese in case any of you want to read some Chinese. Any of you up on your Chinese? No? Okay, well. All right. Well, then I won't bring up the Chinese. You know? Of a Chinese church, you kind of had to have Chinese sometimes. But you can move some of these up in order by having your, that prioritized list. Okay? And so you can change the Bibles you want in that prioritized list. Let me also show, and the same thing actually is with commentaries. So here's my I said to you, I had the Jamison Robertson Foist. I have that. Notice that's in Ephesians. That too has a parallel set. And so this is the parallel set for that. So let me start at the first one. And this actually is the one that should be up there. I used to have it right here. I don't know what happened, so I must have deleted it accidentally. But if I start with here, here's going to be the list that I have of commentaries. Here's the full parallel list. So I can sit with this and just right arrow key, and it goes to the next commentary. Now, I don't want the commentaries linked here for myself, because if that's linked every time I go to the next verse, all these other windows are changing. So I have my commentary set, but remember, if I'm on Ephesians 3:8 and I open the commentary, so I'm here, I'm at Ephesians 3:18, 19, right? I go over here and drag this down, drop it in here. It's going to open to Ephesians 3:18 because that's where I'm at. But now I could read 19 and the rest of these windows aren't changing. I get done with reading this one, I do the right arrow, and I'm on my next commentary. I can read this one, I get done reading it, I go to the next commentary with a right arrow. If I want to go back to a commentary, left arrow. That's really saves a lot. And yes, I do have Catholic resources for those who may. It's called research. I have Seventh-day Adventist stuff too. So don't hold me. Okay, don't hold me. Don't rip me because of my library.
Heretic.
Yeah, you were waiting to say that. So you can go through all of your commentaries, read them one at a time. I mean, when I was old school and had books, what I would do is take every when I was working, say, the Book of James, every commentary that is behind me, when I shut the screen off and you see me and you see my library, I have a whole bunch of commentaries. What did I do? I grabbed every commentary off my shelf and I'd put it on a separate bookshelf. There was my study shelf. And what I would do is start with one commentary. I'd read it, highlight it, I'd put it back, I'd take the next one. I'd have a bookmark in it. I'd read it, I'd move the bookmark, highlighting everything, put it back. And I'd work commentary by commentary that way. Well, I can do that now in Logos by reading through everything and just hitting the right arrow button. And then when I'm done with that passage, I could just close this. And when I want, I take this commentary, drop it down again. It opens to the new passage that I'm at, and I do the same thing again. And I can get through all my commentaries. Now, again, your commentary list is going to be prioritized by going to your library up here and clicking the priority list. And this list here is going to determine the order that those are going to be in. You're going to have all of them? No, you're not going to do all of them. You're going to do important ones first. After the important ones, you're going to let Logos choose. You know, and if you have a ton of them, well, you're not going to want to go through all. You're not going to have time to go through all these. And if you do have that kind of time, you're clearly not preaching every week. So with that, I think, you know what, so let's quickly look at what we went over. We went over a lot of the things in your what you should look at daily in your home page. Looked at some of the different things that are here. What you have on your sidebar, what you have in getting your daily extras, how to pull up your Logos account very quickly, how to customize this. We went over what our menus up here, what each of these are, just briefly. How to add things to your quick bar up here. We even went through this Go. You know, you could do with the Go, the other thing you could do, let me go back to our home, and remember I said I have this thing that says close all. I like to do that sometimes. So I just closed everything. Now, is all of it lost? Well, not really, because remember we went over this thing called layouts. I have that layout right here. I could save that layout if I wanted by doing a save as, and it would show up here as my saved layout. So I go back over here, and, you know, I'm going to sit here, and we're going to be going through, and we want to study something. And, you know, we're going to be talking about the body of Christ. So I start typing body of Christ. And I could just click that, or I could just click enter or the go button. And now this is going to give me a topical study. So we showed how from the homepage you could do a study of a passage, or I could do a topic. Now notice the layout is different now. Now this gives me the topic guide. Okay? With all the things in the topics. It also assumes that I probably want a sermon out of this. So it's giving me all the sermons, a sermon starter guide. A sermon out of this, but this is the default. Now remember, for 75% of the people, or people who are just starting out, those guides are organized by Logos, and they're going to be probably all you're going to need. As you improve and as you study more, you're going to create your own guide. Maybe I could show you mine real quick that I use, but it has a little bit of everything in there. And there's times where I add and remove it. So, but you notice they brought up an English Bible that deals with the passage. We also brought up a Bible dictionary, right? They brought up this book I'm not familiar, so I could just hover over this, and it's Zondervan's Encyclopedia. So they're bringing up a bunch of dictionaries down here that they figure I'm going to need on the topic, the body of Christ. Here's the topic. And again, I have related verses, I have illustrations, I have sermons, all these different things. And notice this, it says, hey, there's no atlas on body of Christ. Not going to show up. People, places, things, not going to show up. So that's a topic if you want to do a topical study. Let me just show, I know we'll go a little bit over, but I just want to show really quick one thing, and that's the fact book. Let's see, is it? No. Okay. I usually don't get to it from the menu because I have it right here. But if you go to Tools, and just show it again so you see Tools, and then under References is Fact Booked. So the last thing that I studied on the Fact Book was the temple, the Jerusalem temple. we're doing some studying on this. And so here what I have showing up in the fact book is this is going to be all your people, places, and things. What this is doing is going through my library and even books that I may not have in my library and pulling all the resources together that Logos has. If it's a book that I don't have, Logos is going to let me know that, and I could buy that book. If it's like, wow, I really need to know that, I could do that. I could do a topic guide. I could do a sermon starter. Then it gives me some, so I have some other topics that might come up. But this is just going to pull things together. If you're going to start, you start studying the book of Ephesians. We're going to talk about Ephesians. So I start looking this up. You see, I have a whole bunch of different fact books. The city of Ephesus, Ephesus, the church, the elders of Ephesus. I can look at all of that, but I want to look up the book. So I just keep typing, and it has the epistle. And so I click on the epistle, I hit return, and it's going to create a fact book. This is kind of like, you guys remember like when you have the Encyclopedia Britannicas or things like that, and they used to also have fact books that give you all the facts about different people or places or things. Well, that's what Logos is trying to do here. So when I do this, if I'm going to start a book, you know how if you have a study Bible, in the beginning of that, you have a couple chapters, a couple pages in the beginning of a study Bible. It tells you who wrote it, when they wrote it, some important things about the book itself. So what you do is you could pull up the epistle to Ephesians, and you can end up, I'll just close some of these. You can end up going into the content, and now you have all the different resources, and you could go more. If you hit more, it pops everything in. If you don't want, if these 4 are enough, don't say more. If you want more, just click that, and this is going to give you all the outlines of the book. So every book in my library that deals with the book of Ephesians and provides an outline is here. So you're going to see a lot of things with outlines because you're going to have study Bibles, you're going to have commentaries. They're all going to have stuff. You could go into background, okay, and look at all those things. All right. And then before I close, I'm just going to collapse all these things up so that next time I come in, when I forget. Okay. So, but you could do things like that. Okay. So quick question I see that popped in. Is there any way to make the margin notes right with the preferred Bible? I'm not sure I know what you mean. Make the margin notes right. Make the margin notes make the notes in your Bible, right into the Bible. One thing you could do, so I have Ephesians here. I could pull up my notes. So let me see. Let me change this to search by type. Oh, that's the guide. No wonder I can't find it. Let me go to documents, and I could bring up my Ephesians clippings. And this wouldn't be in the margins, but I can bring it up and, just go through this and look at, at that. I can have my notes. There is a way with, if I go on these little, visual, what they call it, visual filters, there's a way of adding, some different things. So I know one of the things you can add is highlighting. So yeah, you do have notes. So if I have a notes in the English Standard, it would be there. What I need to add, for example, would be, see if I could add it. No, I'd have to find out. I'd have to find out how to add to these notes. Like what I would need to do, this adds to the English Standard Version, and I don't always want that. The way I organize it is by book, so that I can get my notes my notes that I write in, I put into by book. So it'll be Bible Ephesians. And I'd have to figure out how to add this in. But there is a way, maybe not so much to get it in the margins, but you see this little guy here, they have these different things. Like this is going to be from a fact book on the person of Jesus. And this will be Jesus being the speaker, by the way. that's that megaphone. He's speaking. This will be, the icon was of person. So this is going to the fact book on a person, the disciples. This is the person of Peter. Okay. So you have different icons like that, and you can have some that'll have, that'll be a little, that could be for notes as well. It won't really be in the margin so much. And so there might be a way of doing it. Yeah. And John's making the point that you can add to this your community notes as well. So, so these are community groups that some of the community groups that I have that I've added. I have a Striving for Eternity community group that's not very active, but we hopefully will start using it in our Monday night Bible study. I have one for CARM that I don't think is used at all. And there's some more that I got to add. We don't have a study group for there's some groups I have that I'm part of that we just don't do much, but there are ways of adding the community notes. So if you're part of a group Bible study and you use Faith Life as a way of communicating, that shows up here as well. And that's really cool that what they've done with their social platform, because you can put calendars in there, and it's a whole lot that you could do. Maybe one day we could focus in on that and look at that. But so gave you guys a quick overview of the different guides. You have the topical guide, the exegetical guide, passage guide. You have the sermon starter guide that we didn't really look at. We looked at some of the quick ways to do a passage study and another one to do a topical study. So that's going to get you started with most of this stuff. We taught you a real quick way of if you have, well, right now I don't have my information, but I can go over here and take my information lookup, and I could just drag that. Now, notice I drag that over here, and it's highlighting that little area. Well, now it's going to show up there. I can take this, by the way, and I can shrink this or make it larger. Okay. But now I have my information window, and I could, if I just don't know a word, I could just click on this. Now, not every Bible is keyed to the Greek. Just keep that in mind. As you guys just saw with me, the Holman Christian Standard Version now is keyed to the Greek. It used to not be. So I used to use the Greek for that reason. But you can easily, if you're using something like the ESV that is keyed to the Greek, you could very easily go through and, just click on a word and get a quick information about it. But quick being dependent on how fast your computer is. But you can get some quick information about it. You could dig in more by, we didn't look at this because it's a whole thing by itself, but you can look at the words and dig in more. But even from here, you can see the idea. This is going to tell you the sense of the word. And this is provided by the scholars at Logos. One of the things Logos did a couple of years ago, they hired some top-notch scholars. So this is what I think this is what sets Logos apart from any other Bible software, is that they have scholars on staff that went through and tagged all this stuff, so that every word that you have there, they tried to give the meaning, the sense of the word. So here you have the word weak. They're telling you that it's weak morally, that it has the sense, not just being weak like you're sick, like you came down with a flu, but a moral weakness. And if we read this, watch and pray that you may neither enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Well, I kind of agree with them. It does seem to be a weak morally. So they actually have scholars. And this is what sets them apart. They have scholars that went through every passage of the Bible, went through all of it to give what they thought was the sense of every word. They went through and they they did all these topics. They tagged all this different stuff to give you all this scholarly work that basically gives you a quick one-click answer to things. And so you could just use this information guide to get that. Okay, there's some more tools that we have in here that we could look up, the power lookup, the punctuation, where it's cited, but we could look at all those. You could play with those. We'll look at those maybe another time. We looked at how to go through the parallel passages, go through your Bibles, your commentaries very quickly. You see anywhere where you see that, here's my Bible dictionary. But again, notice this is a parallel passage. These dictionaries open. I'm going to want one open, and I use the right and left arrow key and just go through this list in order. That's how I like to do it. I'm OCD. You know, one of the reasons is I have a slow computer. I got a 9-year-old computer. It can't keep up with all the books. So what do I want to do? I don't want that many books open. So I want this to be as quick as it could be. And so I usually like to close as much down. Right and left arrow gets me through all that. So showed you some quick ways to study a passage, to get word by word through the Greek and be able to see that. We'll go into more detail. I don't know when we'll set another one of these up. I hope this was helpful. And you guys were all quiet, but I saw you were chatting in the thing, and I tried to answer the questions that I saw. I don't know if I missed any. I hope this was helpful for you guys. I'll stop presenting. So there's the library that's behind me, and people always say, "Did you read all these?" No, not all of these. These are those are all commentaries. Well, I have commentaries all the way over there. You can't see them, but the commentary sets end right here with MacArthur's, and then these are all Old Testament commentaries. These over here are all New Testament commentaries, and all those are reference works. Okay. So yeah, these behind me, I didn't read word for word all of them, but I used to take all these. If I was studying a passage, I'd take like James is somewhere over here behind me. James is like right there and down there, and I'd take all those off, and then I would take all these commentary sets and pull James off, and I would take all those and I'd go one by one through them. Now what Logos does is it organizes all of that for me, so I don't have to pull the books. Basically, that's what it's doing. What I would spend doing is taking all the books that I have to deal with, and I would take them one by one by one. And now I'm letting Logos do that. Now I'm going to give you the warning. Logos is doing that for you, and boy, is that nice. You have it's like having a personal assistant that's going to go through your library and pull everything together. Here's the problem. Now you suddenly find you have a little bit more time because you're not having to turn pages. And you know what you end up doing when you have more time? You start to look at some of those rabbit trails, those things that you see someone mention something, because it's only a click away, you're going to find yourself clicking on it, especially if you're new. This is one of the things I find with all new Logos users. They just keep going down the rabbit trails. My pastor just upgraded his Logos, and his wife came to me because she teaches the ladies study, and she's like struggling. And I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, I keep finding I'm running out of time with my study. I said, "Let me tell you why." She's like, "You know why?" I said, "Sure. You're going through a bunch of things, and because it's all now just a click away, you're clicking on it just to study this. Now you're clicking on that to study that." And she goes, "Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing." I said, "Stop it." Time box. Figure out, okay, I have this much time to the study. There's times you can go do and say, Kofi's saying, "Oh, look, squirrel." Yes, there's times you want to chase that squirrel. But there's also, you're going to need to pull yourself in and say, "Nope, I got to stick to the study." And so, like you saw with me, sometimes I do a study and I have something where Son of Man, Sons of Man, Son of Men, Sons of Men. I want to get back to that study. What do? I just save it as a list. Someone asked me to study all the places where face-to-face is in the Bible. I didn't get to it. I've got somewhere in it. What did I do? Saved it as a list. And I get back to it. You could do those sort of things. So, Kofi says he's incredibly focused until he gets studying. I love it. So I hope that was helpful for all you guys. I will say Kofi is where I'm gonna make his screen. No, Kofi, there we go. I'm gonna say Kofi's wearing an wonderful shirt. It says God exists and he has spoken. It's a great shirt for witnessing. And if you look within the exists, it's all the attributes of God in there. Great shirt. Not just because the quote is mine, but it is a great shirt for evangelizing. We wore those all in the at the Reason Rally. Boy, did that get conversations. But that's on that actually Bible Thumping Wingnut, a ministry of ours, produces those, and the money goes to support them. But we sell them on our website. If you go to our store and you want those in red, I don't think there's any more of the grays. There is a way to get black though. And I don't know if Kofi even knows this. There are only limited people that have the God exists, he has spoken shirts in black. And the way to get it in black is to become a monthly supporter at Striving for Eternity. They're the only people. So if you see someone wearing a black shirt, you know they support us monthly. But if you become a monthly supporter, and you could do that many different ways through, you could send us a check through your bank. You could go to the Striving for Eternity page, click the donate button and give weekly through PayPal, or monthly, through PayPal. And then depending on whatever level you support, we have different gifts that we give you. But one of them would be a God Exists, He Has Spoken t-shirt in black. It's the only way to get black. Just a hint, Kofi, I think, I see you got the red. You may have the gray. I think you need the black, use those wedding presents you get to good use. No, he's laughing. You guys can't see that. he's like this, laughing like, oh, but Kofi's going to be getting married soon. So he's chosen. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, you guys who are here, but Kofi has chosen, he's shaking his head like this. He knows what's coming. He has chosen to get married over going to Shepherd's Conference. I mean, you think he could have planned it better, but no, he decides, no, I'm gonna sit there and say, Shepherd's Conference, no. Marriage, yes. Well, I guess he's got his priorities straight. Just saying. So we're gonna end this here. I hope this was helpful. I'm sure some folks are gonna watch this again a couple times. You guys say, all right, we need another one. We're gonna do lesson 2, and we'll continue. If you guys found this valuable, share it with your friends. Let them know, how they could. I mean, the goal of this, obviously, I'm not making money off this. Logos doesn't pay me, but when you start learning how to really use the tool, when you just learn that search button, just play with the search, and you're going to see how much faster you're going to be able to find things. It's the reason that I now cannot go to church without my laptop, because I get asked questions all the time, and I can search and get that really quick. I was asked a couple of weeks ago by one of the ladies how many, she was in a Bible study, and the question came up of, well, how many commands are there in the Old Testament? And so I explained to her, she was under the, so let me just do that real quick. Let's see, I'll share the screen again, just since I'm mentioning it. I'll show you how I did that. And so she asked about the commands. Well, there is, under this interactive tool, there's several more tools that you can't see. So you click on all of them, and then it comes up with the full list. And one of the things, you have the commands of the law. And so I could just click on that. And let me show you one other feature really quick. This brings it up in this little window that I don't like. So what do? I click here on that little arrow, and I can float this panel. And now, let's see if you're going to see that. Let's see. Probably not. Let me stop and present the screen. Okay. So let me drag this back in somewhere. Okay. So here it is here. I take this, I click on float this panel, and you see now it becomes its own little window. And I have 2 windows. I have the back window back here, and then this one here. Now notice I was able to show her, because she thought there were 613 laws in the Talmud that the Jews have added. I said, no, there's 613 in the Old Testament. But here's the interesting thing. Look at this. There's 365 that are negative and 240 48 that are positive. I could look by category on adultery. I could look, that are mentioned by people, the Israelites. I could go through all the laws of the Old Testament, ones that are holidays, one that deal with debt. And I could look at specific laws of the Old Testament. This is really wild. When you start playing with some of the tools that they have, you could, okay, I'm telling you right now, you're going to spend a whole day just going and getting lost. And if you're married and, Kofi's going to get to this point and his wife is going to be like, what are you doing in there in your office? Oh, I was just playing with the Logos tools. And she's going to say, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Come spend time with me. When she stops telling you to stop it, then you're in trouble. But there's so much here that you could that they've used with their scholars, have put stuff together. I mean, think about how much time it took to organize every one of those 613 commands into all those different categories. And oh, by the way, you're not going to see a category of ceremonial, moral, and civil. Oh, sorry. Did I just give away my Baptist roots? Sorry, my Presbyterian friends, it's just a little jab. But you're not going to see it there. But you're going to see, I mean, there's so many different ways of so many different things that they have in this that you can play with. And we're, maybe as we go through, we'll give you some more. Again, hope this was helpful. Encourage you guys to, if it is helpful, what I would say is, you could help us in a couple ways. You can help us because it does take time to, put this stuff together, take time out of the day to do trainings. And I actually spent a couple hours to figure out, okay, what things do I think are important to go over and all. Two ways you could help us. One would be, as you saw, we could have got through more stuff if I had a faster computer. Encourage you, if you could, just, if you could go to youcaring.com and just do a search for Striving for Eternity. And I think if you just do, let me just quickly search it and see, Striving for Eternity. I think that it comes up with maybe just ours. No, it comes up with a whole bunch of things. So let's see. See how to search. Yeah, so when I type fundraisers, there's one that says, I type in Striving for Eternity, but don't hit return. It comes up with a drop down that if you click on that, it says take Striving for Eternity to the next level. We've done pretty well. We've gotten close, but not close enough to actually get some of the equipment. We've gotten some things that helped us to just get this computer kind of sped up enough that we could get through this, which I'm amazed that we did. But I also have everything else shut down. That's one way. Another way, if you go to strivingforeternity.org and consider being a monthly supporter, not only will you give you that great shirt that Kofi's wearing there in black, not calling Kofi black, the shirt will be black. Kofi is black, but the shirt will also be black. You won't, if Kofi wears it, we won't be able to see anything but the letters that will, stand out more. but you'll get the God Exists, He Has Spoken shirt in black, along with some other things depend on level. But monthly support greatly helps us if you'd consider that. So with that, I'm going to end Hangout. We'll set up another one of these. We'll do a similar type of thing and go over some more tools and dig a little deeper, I'm sure. And so thanks for watching.